The frost on the windshield looked like spider webs as Naomi Carter scraped it away with her fingernails. Her breath came out in white puffs that reminded her of the cigarettes she'd quit 3 months ago, not by choice, but because she couldn't afford them anymore. "Mama, I'm hungry." 6-year-old Ava pressed her face against the back window, her words fogging up the glass. Naomi's heart twisted. She reached into her purse and counted the crumpled bills one more time. $8.37. That was it until Friday, 3 days away. The math was brutal. Breakfast for Ava. Maybe lunch if she stretched it. But definitely not both meals for both of them. Detroit's morning rush was already building as they pulled up to Rosie's Cafe. The neon sign flickered like it was having a stroke. This place served the cheapest breakfast in the neighborhood, scrambled eggs and toast for $4. Ava could eat. Naomi would drink water and pretend she wasn't starving. But something made her pause before getting out of the car. An old man sat hunched on the concrete steps outside the cafe. His jacket was too thin for December, and his hands shook, not just from a cold, but from something deeper. Maybe hunger, maybe fear. His eyes were hollow, like someone had scooped out everything that used to live there. Naomi had seen that look before, in her own mirror on the worst days. The man's lips were turning blue, actually blue, and he kept rubbing his arms, trying to create warmth that wasn't there. People walked past him like he was invisible, like he was just part of the scenery. "Mama, why is that man sitting outside?" Naomi's throat went tight. How do you explain homelessness to a 6-year-old? How do you tell your child that sometimes the world just forgets about people? She looked at her daughter's trusting eyes, then back at the stranger who was probably someone's grandfather, someone's son, someone who used to matter to somebody. The $8 felt heavier in her hand now. $4 for Ava's breakfast. $4 that could buy this man a hot coffee and something warm to put in his stomach. But that would leave nothing for lunch. Nothing for tomorrow. Nothing for the growing stack of bills on her kitchen table that she couldn't bring herself to open anymore. Most people would walk away here, but Naomi didn't. And if you'd never want to miss how one small act can change everything, subscribe before we go further. Her hand was already reaching for the car door handle. Something inside her chest was pulling her forward, even though her brain was screaming about rent money and empty refrigerators and all the reasons why she couldn't afford kindness right now. "Stay in the car, sweetie. Mama will be right back." The cold air hit her like a slap when she stepped outside. But the old man's grateful eyes, when she walked toward him, that hit her like something else entirely. "Sir? Excuse me, sir." The old man's head jerked up like he'd been shocked. Most people didn't talk to him anymore. His eyes were watery, from the cold or something deeper. Naomi couldn't tell. "You look like you could use some warming up," she said softly. "Can I buy you something hot?" He blinked twice, like he was trying to process whether this was really happening. I don't have any money, miss." "I didn't ask if you had money. I asked if you wanted something warm." The man's face crumpled, and for a second Naomi thought he might cry. "That's very kind, but I couldn't." "What's your name?" "Bernard. Bernard Thompson." "Well, Bernard Thompson, I'm Naomi Carter. And where I come from, neighbors help neighbors. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." Inside the cafe, the smell of bacon and fresh coffee made Naomi's empty stomach clench. She'd skipped dinner last night, so Ava could have seconds. Now she was about to spend half their money on a stranger. "What can I get you, honey?" The waitress, her name tag said Dolores, had kind eyes but tired hands. "1 scrambled eggs and toast for my daughter," Naomi said, pointing toward the car where Ava was drawing pictures on the fog window. "And coffee with a blueberry muffin for this gentleman." Bernard's hands trembled as he accepted the steaming mug. I haven't had coffee in, I can't remember how long. Naomi watched him take that first sip. His whole body seemed to relax, like warmth was spreading through him for the first time in weeks. When was the last time someone had shown him basic human kindness? You have a beautiful little girl, Bernard said, nodding toward the car. That's Ava. She's my whole world. How old? 6. Going on 16, if you ask her. Naomi smiled, but it was tinged with worry. She starts asking questions I don't know how to answer. Bernard nodded slowly. Kids see everything, don't they? Even when we try to hide it. Especially poverty, Naomi thought. Especially fear. What about you? Do you have family? Bernard's eyes went distant. Had a daughter once. About your age. We had words. Stupid, stubborn words that went on too long. He paused, staring into his coffee. She tried to reach out last Christmas. I was too proud to answer. The regret in his voice was so thick Naomi could almost taste it. It's never too late, she said quietly. Sometimes it is. Bernard broke off a piece of muffin, savoring it like it was the finest meal he'd ever tasted. She doesn't even know I lost my job, lost my apartment, lost everything that made me feel like a man worth knowing. Naomi's chest tightened. How many people were out there, invisible and forgotten? How many Bernard Thompsons were sitting on cold steps while the world rushed past? Through the window, she watched Ava practicing writing her name in the condensation. Such innocence. Such trust that Mama would always figure things out, always make sure she was safe and fed and loved. But what happens when Mama can't figure it out? You know what I think, Naomi said, surprising herself with her boldness. I think pride is just fear wearing a fancy suit. Bernard looked up sharply. I think your daughter misses you. I think she'd rather have a father who's struggling than no father at all. Naomi's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking now. Because love isn't about having everything figured out. It's about showing up anyway. Was she talking to Bernard or to herself? You don't understand. I understand that little girl out there hasn't seen her daddy in 2 years, Naomi said, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. I understand what it's like to feel like you're not enough, like you're failing at the one job that matters most. Bernard set down his coffee cup carefully. Where's her father? Gone. Said being a daddy was too hard when there wasn't enough money to make it easy. The old pain flared in her chest. Said he'd come back when he got his life together. Men and our stupid pride, Bernard whispered. Outside, Ava had started waving at them through the window. Her smile was so bright it could power the whole cafe. She didn't know they only had $4 left. She didn't know about the eviction notice. She just knew Mama was there, and that made everything okay. Bernard waved back, and Ava giggled, pressing both hands against the glass. She's beautiful, he said again. And she's lucky to have a mother who puts kindness before comfort. Naomi felt tears threatening. Some days I wonder if kindness is just another word for foolish. No, Bernard said firmly. Kindness is the only thing that makes us human. As they prepared to leave, neither of them realized they were about to discover just how true those words really were. Bernard stood up slowly, his joints creaking like old floorboards. The warmth from the coffee had brought color back to his cheeks, but there was something different about him now. The way he straightened his shoulders, the way he looked directly into Naomi's eyes instead of at the ground. Miss Carter, he said, and his voice had changed too. Less shaky, more refined. I need you to understand something. Naomi tilted her head, confused by the sudden shift in his tone. What you've done today, Bernard paused, choosing his words carefully. It's not something I'll forget, ever. There was weight behind those words, the kind of weight that suggested they meant more than simple gratitude. You don't need to thank me, Naomi said. We all need help sometimes. But most people don't offer it. Not when it costs them something they can't afford to lose. Bernard's eyes were sharp now, studying her face like he was memorizing it. You gave me more than breakfast. You gave me back my faith in humanity. Something about the way he spoke made Naomi's skin prickle. Too formal. Too precise. Like he was used to giving speeches instead of having conversations. I should get back to my daughter, she said, suddenly uncomfortable. Of course. Bernard reached into his torn jacket pocket and pulled out a business card. Expensive paper. Embossed lettering. Definitely not something a homeless man should have. Naomi stared at it, her mind racing. I don't understand. Keep it, Bernard said firmly. And when you need help, not if, when you call that number. But I thought you said. I said I lost everything that made me feel like a man worth knowing. I didn't say I lost everything. His smile was cryptic now, almost mysterious. Sometimes we have to lose ourselves to find out who we really are. Naomi looked down at the card. Sterling Enterprises private line was all it said, with a phone number beneath it. No name. No title. Just those 2 lines in elegant script. I don't take charity, she said quietly. This isn't charity. This is a debt. One I intend to repay. The way Bernard said debt made it sound like something sacred. Something binding. You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything. Bernard's voice was suddenly thick with emotion. You looked at me and saw a human being. Not trash. Not a problem to step over. A person worth saving. Through the cafe window, Ava had started making faces at her reflection, giggling at her own silliness. So innocent. So trusting that Mama would always come back. Your daughter is lucky, Bernard said, following her gaze. She's learning kindness from the best teacher. Some days I wonder if I'm teaching her the right lessons. Maybe I should be teaching her to look out for herself first. The world has enough people who only look out for themselves, Bernard said sharply. What it needs is more people like you. People who choose compassion even when it's costly. Would you have done what Naomi did? Given your last few dollars? Comment, yes, if you'd have helped, or tell us why not. As Naomi walked back toward her car, Bernard called out one more time. Miss Carter. She turned. Promise me something. When life gets harder, and it will get harder before it gets easier, promise me you'll remember that kindness is never wasted, even when it feels like it is. I promise, she said, though she wasn't sure why. Back in the car, Ava was full of questions. Who was that man, Mama? Why was he so sad? Did you make him feel better? I think so, baby. I hope so. Good. Daddy always said we should help people who are hurting. Ava's voice was matter-of-fact. Like helping strangers was the most obvious thing in the world. Naomi's chest tightened. Even after everything, Ava still remembered the few good things her father had taught her. Still believed in kindness despite growing up with so little. Daddy was right about that, Naomi said softly. As they drove away, Naomi glanced in her rearview mirror. Bernard was still standing outside the cafe, watching them leave. But he wasn't hunched over anymore. He stood straight, dignified, like a man who'd remembered something important about himself. The business card felt strange in her pocket. Too fancy. Too mysterious. What kind of homeless man carried calling cards for Sterling Enterprises? Sterling Enterprises. She'd heard that name before. On the news. In the business section of newspapers she couldn't afford to buy, but sometimes read while waiting in checkout lines. A chill ran down her spine that had nothing to do with the December air. 3 blocks away, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Thank you for reminding an old fool that goodness still exists in this world. BT. How did he get her number? She'd never given it to him. Naomi stared at the message, her hands gripping the steering wheel tighter. Something wasn't right. Homeless men don't have smartphones. They don't know about Sterling Enterprises. They don't speak like college professors or carry business cards that feel like they cost more than her monthly grocery budget. "Mama, are you okay?" Ava's voice cut through her racing thoughts. "Yeah, sweetie. Everything's fine." But everything wasn't fine. And as Naomi drove toward their tiny apartment with its growing stack of unpaid bills, she couldn't shake the feeling that buying Bernard Thompson a cup of coffee had set something in motion. Something that would change everything. 7 days later, Naomi was running late for her shift at the diner. Ava's school had called about a forgotten lunch money, and the morning had spiraled from there. She was cutting through downtown when she saw him, Bernard Thompson. But not the Bernard she'd met outside Rosie's Cafe. This Bernard wore a tailored wool coat that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His shoes were polished leather, not the torn sneakers held together with duct tape. His hair was styled, his face clean-shaven, and he moved with the confidence of a man who owned the sidewalk he walked on. Naomi pulled over, her heart hammering against her ribs. A sleek black Mercedes idled at the curb. Not just any Mercedes, the kind that cost more than most people's houses. A uniformed driver held the back door open while Bernard approached the car. But then he paused, like he sensed her watching. Their eyes met across the street, and Bernard's face went through a series of emotions: surprise, guilt, something that looked almost like fear. He said something to the driver, who nodded and closed the door. Then Bernard walked directly toward her car. "Miss Carter." His voice was different again. Smoother. More commanding. "We need to talk." "I don't understand." Naomi's voice came out smaller than she intended. "What's going on? Who are you really?" Bernard glanced around nervously, like he was worried about being seen with her. That stung more than it should have. "Get in the car," he said. "Please. There are things you need to know. I'm not getting in any car with you until you tell me the truth." "The truth." Bernard's laugh was bitter. "The truth is complicated. Try me." "Fine." Bernard leaned against her car door, his expensive coat creaking. "My name is Bernard Sterling. Not Thompson. Sterling." The name hit her like cold water. Sterling. As in Sterling Enterprises. As in the business card burning a hole in her purse for the past week. "You're rich." It wasn't a question. Obscenely rich. Generationally rich. Rich enough that I could buy this entire city block without checking my account balance. Naomi felt sick. So what was that whole homeless act? Some kind of sick game? No game. Bernard's eyes were desperate now. "I was testing something. Someone. I needed to know if genuine kindness still existed, or if the world had become as cold and calculating as I believed." Testing. The word came out like a curse. "You tested me?" "You passed," Bernard said quietly, with flying colors. "I don't want your approval." Naomi's hands were shaking with anger. "I have to get to work. I have bills to pay. Real bills. Not pretend poverty bills." "Wait," Bernard called as she started to pull away. "There's someone you need to meet. Someone who can change everything for you and Ava." But Naomi was already driving away, tears of humiliation burning her eyes. She'd been played, used, made a fool of by a man who probably laughed about her kindness over champagne and caviar. Some lessons, she thought bitterly, cost more than you can afford to pay. 3 days of sleepless nights later, Naomi's curiosity finally won over her pride. She found herself standing outside Sterling Enterprises at 6 p.m., clutching the business card like a lifeline. The building stretched toward the clouds, all glass and steel and intimidation. Everything about it screamed money and power, and people like her didn't belong. The lobby was bigger than her entire apartment. Marble floors that reflected crystal chandeliers. Security guards in suits that cost more than her car. She felt like an imposter in her clearance rack dress and secondhand shoes. "Can I help you?" The receptionist's smile was professionally polite, but her eyes assessed Naomi's worth in seconds. "Found it lacking. I'm here to see Bernard Sterling." "Do you have an appointment?" Naomi held up the business card. "He told me to call this number. I'm calling in person instead." The receptionist's expression shifted when she saw the private line card. "One moment, please." 20 minutes later, an elevator opened and Bernard stepped out. Back in his homeless costume, torn jacket, wrinkled pants, scuffed shoes. But somehow it looked like a costume now that she knew the truth. "Miss Carter, I wasn't sure you'd come." "I wasn't sure either." Naomi's voice was ice cold. "But curiosity killed the cat, right? Please, come upstairs. There's someone I want you to meet." The elevator ride to the 42nd floor was silent tension. Bernard kept glancing at her like he wanted to explain, but Naomi stared straight ahead. She was here for answers, not apologies. The elevator opened into a penthouse office that looked like something from a movie. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the entire city. Leather furniture that probably cost more than her annual salary. And behind a desk the size of a small car sat the most handsome man Naomi had ever seen. Dark hair, sharp jawline, eyes that seemed to see everything and judge it all. He looked up from his laptop, and those eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her stomach flip. "Nathan," Bernard said, "I'd like you to meet Naomi Carter." Nathan Sterling stood, and Naomi had to resist the urge to step backward. He was tall, commanding, and radiated the kind of confidence that came from never hearing the word no. "Miss Carter." His voice was smooth whiskey and expensive education. "I've heard a great deal about you." "All lies, apparently," Naomi said, shooting a look at Bernard. Nathan's mouth twitched. Was that amusement? "My father has a tendency toward theatrical demonstrations, but his admiration for you is genuine." "Your father." "Bernard Sterling is my father," Nathan said, moving around the desk with predatory grace. "And according to him, you restored his faith in humanity with a $4 cup of coffee." Naomi felt heat creep up her neck. "I didn't know I was being auditioned." "You weren't," Nathan said, and something in his tone made her believe him. "What you did was pure instinct, pure character. That's rare." "What do you want from me?" Naomi asked bluntly. Nathan and Bernard exchanged a look. "We want to offer you a job," Nathan said finally. "I have a job. A better job. A life-changing job." "Doing what?" Nathan smiled, and it was dangerous and beautiful and made Naomi's knees weak. "Teaching my son how to be human." "Your son." 10 years old. Entitled. Spoiled. Has never heard the word no, or met anyone who wasn't paid to like him. Nathan's expression darkened. His mother died 2 years ago. Since then, he's become difficult. "And you think some waitress from Detroit can fix what all your money can't?" "I think," Nathan said, moving closer, "that a woman who would give her last $4 to a stranger might be exactly what my son needs." The offer hung between them like a loaded gun. "What's the catch?" Naomi asked. Nathan's smile turned predatory. "Who says there's a catch?" But something in his eyes suggested the catch was bigger than she could possibly imagine. "I need to think about it," Naomi said, backing toward the elevator. "Of course." Nathan's voice was smooth, but his eyes were calculating. "Why don't we discuss it over lunch? Tomorrow. You and your daughter. Ava has school." "It's Saturday tomorrow." Nathan's smile was patient, like he was used to people trying to avoid him. "There's a place downtown. Nothing fancy. I want to meet the little girl who raised such an extraordinary mother." The compliment felt like honey laced with poison. Too sweet. Too deliberate. Fine, Naomi said. But I'm driving myself. And we're going Dutch. Something flickered across Nathan's face. Surprise? Amusement? As you wish. The next day, Naomi almost turned around 3 times on the way to the restaurant. What was she doing? Taking her daughter to meet a billionaire who probably saw them as some kind of charity project? But Ava was excited. She'd put on her best dress, a hand-me-down from Goodwill, that she treated like it came from a princess's closet. Her hair was in pigtails tied with ribbons that were starting to fray, but her smile could have powered the whole city. Nathan was already waiting at a corner table when they arrived. He'd traded his expensive suit for jeans and a sweater, but somehow he still looked like he owned the place. Maybe it was the way the waitstaff kept glancing over, or how the other customers whispered behind their menus. "You must be Ava," Nathan said, standing when they approached. "Your mother has told me wonderful things about you." Ava tilted her head, studying him with a brutal honesty only 6-year-olds possessed. "Are you really, really rich like Mama said?" "Ava." Naomi's face burned. But Nathan laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his entire face. "Yes, I am. Does that bother you?" "Nope. But Mama says rich people sometimes forget how to be nice." "Did you forget?" Nathan's smile faltered for just a second. "I'm still figuring that out." During lunch, Naomi watched Nathan carefully, waiting for the condescension, the subtle put-downs, the way wealthy people sometimes talk to poor folks like they were slightly slow children. It never came. Instead, Nathan listened when Ava chattered about her stuffed elephant collection. He asked genuine questions about her drawings. When Ava spilled juice on the table, he helped clean up without calling for the waitstaff or making her feel embarrassed. But the real test came when the check arrived. Naomi reached for her purse, pulling out the $20 bill she'd been saving for groceries. Nathan's hand covered hers, stopping her. "Please, let me." "We agreed to go Dutch. Plans change." "Not mine." Naomi's voice was firm. "I pay my own way." Nathan stared at her for a long moment. Then he slowly removed his hand and let her put down her money. The waitress looked confused, probably never seen anyone refuse to let Nathan Sterling pick up a check. But Nathan? Nathan looked impressed. "You're not what I expected," he said quietly. "What did you expect?" "Someone easier to buy." That night, after Ava was asleep, Naomi sat at her kitchen table, staring at the business card Nathan had given her. His personal number, written in bold handwriting across the back. The apartment felt smaller than usual. The walls pressed in closer, reminding her of everything she didn't have. Everything she couldn't give Ava. The heating bill notice on the counter. The eviction warning she'd shoved in a drawer. The growing stack of medical bills from Ava's ear infection last month. Nathan Sterling could solve all of it with pocket change. But Naomi had been down this road before. Different man, same promises. Same lies dressed up as salvation. She closed her eyes and let herself remember Marcus, Ava's father. The man who'd swept into her life like a hurricane and left just as much destruction behind. Marcus hadn't been billionaire rich, but he'd had money. Enough to make Naomi feel like Cinderella when they first met. Designer dinners, weekend trips to places she'd only seen in movies, jewelry that made her feel like someone worth treasuring. "You deserve better than this," he'd whispered one night, looking around her cramped studio apartment. "Let me take care of you." And fool that she was, she'd believed him. The pregnancy had changed everything. Suddenly, Naomi wasn't the exciting poor girl he could rescue and show off to his friends. She was a responsibility, a burden, a reminder that real life was messier than his fantasy. "I'm not ready to be a father," Marcus had said, pacing her living room like a caged animal. This wasn't part of the plan. "Plans change," Naomi had replied, echoing the same words Nathan had used at lunch. But Marcus hadn't been impressed by her strength. He'd been threatened by it. "I'll support the kid financially," he'd said, already backing toward the door. "But I can't do the whole family thing. It's not who I am." 3 years. 3 years of promises and false starts. 3 years of him showing up when it was convenient and disappearing when Ava needed him most. 3 years of Naomi making excuses to a little girl who kept asking why Daddy didn't want to live with them. The final straw had come on Ava's 4th birthday. Marcus had promised to be there, had sworn he wouldn't let her down this time. Naomi had spent their grocery money on decorations, baked a cake from scratch, invited the few mom friends she'd made at the playground. Marcus never showed, didn't even call. Naomi had found Ava sitting by the window at 8 p.m., still in her party dress, watching for a car that would never come. "Is Daddy coming, Mama?" "No, baby. Daddy's not coming." That was the last time Naomi allowed herself to hope that money could equal love. The last time she trusted a man who thought his wallet made him a hero. Now here was Nathan Sterling, another wealthy man with another rescue fantasy. Sure, he seemed different, more genuine. But rich men were good at seeming whatever they needed to seem. The phone rang, startling her from her memories. "Hello? Naomi? It's Nathan." Her heart did something stupid in her chest. "It's late. I know. I'm sorry. I couldn't stop thinking about lunch today." "Oh, the way you insisted on paying your own check. The way you looked at me like you were waiting for me to disappoint you." Nathan's voice was quieter than usual, less commanding. "Have I disappointed you before? In another life, maybe?" The question was so close to the truth it made her stomach clench. "No," she said carefully. "But men like you usually do." There was silence on the other end. When Nathan spoke again, his voice was rough. "What did he do to you?" The question hit too close to home, too raw, too real. "Good night, Nathan," she said, and hung up before he could respond. But she kept the phone in her hand, waiting for it to ring again. It didn't. Over the next 2 weeks, Nathan Sterling became a regular part of their routine. Not in a pushy way, more like water slowly wearing down stone. He'd show up at the diner during Naomi's shift, ordering coffee and pie while working on his laptop. Never demanding attention, just there, available, present. He brought Ava books. Not expensive ones, simple picture books about elephants and adventures that made her giggle. When Naomi protested, he shrugged. "Kids need books. It's not charity, it's common sense." The worst part? Ava was falling for him. Not in a desperate, father-hungry way that would have broken Naomi's heart. More like cautious friendship. Ava would save her best drawings to show him. She'd ask about his day and actually listen to the answers. She'd even started including him in her bedtime prayers, which made Naomi's chest feel tight and strange. "God bless Mama and Elephant and Grandma Betty and Nathan, who brings me books and helps Mama smile more." Did she smile more? Naomi caught herself checking her reflection in windows, wondering if it showed. Nathan never pushed, never overstayed, never made Naomi feel like she owed him anything beyond basic politeness. But his presence was steady, reliable in a way that made dangerous thoughts creep into her head. What if this time was different? What if Nathan meant what he said? The thought scared her more than poverty ever had. "You know he likes you, right?" Dolores said one afternoon, nodding toward Nathan's usual table. "Man doesn't drink that much coffee for the caffeine. He's just being nice." Honey, men like that don't do nice without reason. Question is, what's his reason? That night, Nathan walked them home from the diner. It had become routine, him falling into step beside them, carrying Ava when she got tired, listening to her chatter about her day. At their apartment door, Ava threw her arms around Nathan's legs in a spontaneous hug. "Thank you for the elephant book," she said, her voice muffled against his jeans. Nathan's face went soft in a way that made Naomi's defenses wobble. "You're welcome, sweetheart." After Ava was inside, Nathan lingered on the doorstep. "She's amazing," he said quietly. "She's everything. I can see that." Nathan's eyes met hers. "You've done something incredible with her, Naomi. She's kind and curious and brave, just like her mother." The compliment should have felt good. Instead, it made panic flutter in her chest. "What do you want, Nathan?" The question came out sharper than she intended. "Really want?" Because this whole thing, showing up every day, bringing gifts, being perfect, it feels like you're building up to something. Nathan was quiet for so long she thought he might not answer. "Maybe I am," he said finally. "Or maybe I'm just trying to figure out why a woman who gave $4 to a stranger won't let me buy her lunch. Because lunch comes with strings. It always does." "What if it doesn't?" Naomi looked at him, really looked. Searched for the lies hiding behind his eyes. All she saw was a man who seemed as lost as she felt. "Then you'd be the first," she whispered, and closed the door between them. The photo hit social media on a Tuesday morning. Naomi didn't know about it until her phone started buzzing like an angry wasp. Text after text from numbers she didn't recognize. Missed calls from reporters whose names meant nothing to her. Then Dolores burst through the diner's back door, her face flushed and her eyes wide. "Girl, you need to see this." She shoved her phone under Naomi's nose. The picture was grainy, but clear enough. Naomi and Nathan at yesterday's cafe, his hand covering hers across the small table. Ava was in the background, coloring in her book, completely unaware that someone was capturing their private moment. The headline made Naomi's stomach drop. "Sterling Heir's Secret Romance. Billionaire Nathan Sterling spotted with mysterious single mother." Mysterious single mother. Like she was some kind of puzzle Nathan was trying to solve for entertainment. "How did they?" Naomi's voice cracked. "Honey, when you're Nathan Sterling, people watch your every move." Dolores scrolled through the comments, her expression growing darker. "And apparently they have opinions about who you should be watching." The comments were brutal. Strangers dissecting Naomi's appearance, her clothes, her worthiness. Gold digger. Social climber. Poor girl trying to trap a rich man. The words cut deeper than they should have, mainly because part of her had wondered the same things about herself. By noon, 3 reporters had shown up at the diner. By 2 p.m., someone had figured out where she lived. Naomi found a news van parked outside her apartment building when she went to pick up Ava from school. "Mama, why are those people taking pictures of our house?" Ava's voice was small, confused. "I don't know, baby, but we're going to find out." Naomi called Nathan from her car, her hands shaking with anger and fear. "Did you know?" she demanded when he answered. "Did you know they were watching us?" Naomi, slow down. "What happened?" "Check the internet. Check the news. Check whatever rich people check when they want to see how they've ruined someone's life." Silence. "Then where are you?" "Hiding in my car like a criminal because there are reporters outside my apartment." "Come to my place. Both of you. Right now. So they can get more pictures? So they can write more stories about the poor girl and the billionaire. So I can keep you safe." Nathan's voice was steel. "This is my fault. Let me fix it." Nathan's penthouse felt like a different planet. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over a city that sparkled like scattered diamonds. Ava pressed her face against the glass, watching tiny cars move through streets far below. "It's like being in the clouds," she whispered. But Naomi felt like she was drowning. "This is your world," she said, gesturing around the luxury that probably cost more than she'd make in 10 lifetimes. "Look at it. Then look at me." Nathan did look at her. Really looked like he was memorizing her face. I see a woman who's beautiful and strong and refuses to be bought. His voice was quiet, sincere. I see someone who makes me want to be better than I am. You see a project. A charity case you can fix and feel good about yourself. Is that really what you think? Naomi wanted to say yes. Wanted to build her walls higher and push him away before this fairy tale crashed down around her. But the way he looked at her, like she was precious, like she mattered, made the lie stick in her throat. This is where everything changes, and trust me, you won't see the twists coming. Subscribe now so you don't miss what happens when Naomi's simple kindness collides with billionaire power. I think, she said carefully, that you live in a world where people take pictures of your private moments and sell them for money. Where strangers decide if the woman you're with is good enough for you. Where everything has a price, including privacy. Nathan moved closer, his eyes never leaving hers. Then maybe it's time I left that world behind. The words hung between them like a promise or a threat. Outside the windows, the city glittered and judged and waited to see what would happen when a billionaire tried to choose love over legacy. That evening, Nathan ordered dinner from the most expensive restaurant in the city. But instead of setting the elegant table in his dining room, he spread everything out on the living room floor like a picnic. Why? Naomi asked, watching him arrange takeout containers on a blanket. Because Ava said she'd never had a picnic indoors, and I realized I hadn't either. It was such a simple thing, such a normal thing. But somehow it felt like the most romantic gesture anyone had ever made for her. Ava was enchanted. She ate fancy pasta with her fingers and asked Nathan a million questions about living so high up in the sky. Did birds visit his windows? Could he see her school from here? Did he ever get lonely? That last question made Nathan pause, his fork halfway to his mouth. Sometimes, he said honestly, it gets quiet up here. You should get a cat, Ava suggested seriously. Cats are good company. And they don't care if you're rich or poor. After Ava fell asleep on the couch, wrapped in a blanket that probably cost more than Naomi's monthly salary, Nathan and Naomi sat by the windows watching the city sleep. Can I tell you something? Nathan's voice was softer than she'd ever heard it. Okay. My father wasn't always wealthy. He grew up in a trailer park outside Detroit. Ate government cheese and wore hand-me-downs and got picked on for having holes in his shoes. Naomi turned to look at him. Really, he worked 3 jobs to put himself through community college. Built his first business from nothing but stubborn determination and a willingness to work 18-hour days. Nathan's smile was sad. The homeless act you saw? That wasn't completely fake. He knows what it feels like to be invisible. Then why the test? Why not just be honest? Nathan was quiet for a long moment. Because when you have money, everyone wants something from you. Everyone has an angle. It becomes impossible to tell who sees you as a person and who sees you as a paycheck. And what do you think I see? Nathan looked at her then, and his eyes were vulnerable in a way that made her chest tight. I think you see someone who's trying to figure out how to be worthy of your $4 kindness. The honesty in his voice broke something open inside her. Some wall she'd been building since Marcus left. Nathan, I know you don't trust me yet, he said quietly. But I'm hoping you'll let me earn it. For the first time in years, Naomi thought she might be brave enough to try. 3 weeks later, Naomi woke up laughing. It was such a foreign sound in their small apartment that she lay still for a moment, trying to remember the dream that had caused it. Then she heard Ava giggling in the kitchen and remembered. Nathan was making breakfast. Well, attempting to make breakfast. The man who could run $1 billion company apparently couldn't flip pancakes without creating abstract art on the ceiling. Mama, Ava called. Nathan made pancakes that looked like elephants. Well, sort of. If elephants were flat and had weird ears. Naomi found them covered in flour. The kitchen, looking like a bakery, had exploded. Nathan held up a spatula like a surrender flag, his expensive shirt splattered with batter. I may have overestimated my culinary abilities, he admitted. But Ava was beaming, syrup in her hair and joy on her face. She'd helped Nathan make the elephant pancakes, and they were the most beautiful disasters Naomi had ever seen. This was what normal felt like, she realized. This was what a family morning looked like when it wasn't shadowed by worry about money or loneliness or fear of the future. Later, while Ava napped on the couch, still exhausted from their pancake adventure, Naomi and Nathan sat on her tiny balcony sharing coffee from mismatched mugs. I could get used to this, Nathan said, looking out over the neighborhood that was so different from his penthouse view. Used to what? My glamorous lifestyle. Naomi gestured at the cramped apartment, the laundry hanging on lines, the sounds of real life happening all around them. Used to being happy, Nathan said simply. The words hit her like a warm wave. Happy. When was the last time she'd used that word to describe her life? Mama. Ava's sleepy voice drifted from inside. Is Nathan my guardian angel? Nathan's coffee mug paused halfway to his lips. Naomi felt her heart do something complicated in her chest. Why do you ask that, baby? Because Teacher Betty says guardian angels are sent to help people when they need it most. And Nathan came right when we needed help. And he makes you smile the way you used to before Daddy left. Out of the mouths of babes. Naomi looked at Nathan, saw the way his throat worked like he was swallowing something difficult. Saw the way his eyes went soft when he looked at her daughter. Maybe he is, Naomi whispered. And for the first time in years, she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, fairy tales could happen to girls like her. The call came at 2 a.m. on a Thursday. Naomi was deep in the kind of sleep that felt like drowning when her phone buzzed against the nightstand. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, probably another reporter looking for a story about the mysterious single mother. But something made her answer. Hello. Is this Naomi Carter? The voice was female cultured, with a kind of crisp pronunciation that screamed expensive education. Who's asking? My name is Veronica Ashworth. I think we need to talk. The name hit Naomi like ice water. She'd heard it whispered in society pages, seen it mentioned in business articles about Nathan, his ex-fiancée, the woman who'd supposedly been out of his life for 2 years. It's late, Naomi said carefully. Yes, it is. But some conversations can't wait for business hours. There was something sharp in Veronica's voice, something that made Naomi's skin crawl, especially when they concern the man you think you know. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you don't. That's exactly what makes you so perfect for this little game he's playing. Game. The word sent warning bells screaming through Naomi's head. Meet me tomorrow. Café Luna on 5th Street. Noon. Veronica's tone left no room for argument. Come alone. And Naomi? Wear something nice. You're about to learn what it really costs to play in Nathan Sterling's world. The line went dead. Naomi sat in her dark bedroom, phone clutched in her shaking hands, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Veronica Ashworth wasn't supposed to exist in Nathan's current life. She was supposed to be ancient history, a mistake from his past that he'd moved beyond. But women don't call at 2 a.m. to discuss ancient history. The next day, Café Luna felt like walking into enemy territory. The place was all marble and crystal, the kind of establishment where the cheapest item on the menu cost more than Naomi made in a day. Veronica was impossible to miss. Tall, blonde, and stunning in a way that looked effortless, but probably required a team of professionals. She wore a white designer dress that hugged every perfect curve, diamonds that caught the light like captured stars, and a smile that could cut glass. Naomi. She didn't stand when Naomi approached. You're prettier than the photos. I can see why Nathan chose you for this. Chose me for what? Veronica gestured to the empty chair across from her. Please. Sit. We have so much to discuss. Naomi remained standing. Whatever you think is happening. What I think is happening. Veronica's laugh was like breaking crystal. Darling, I know exactly what's happening. I helped plan it. The words made no sense. Naomi felt like she'd walked into the middle of a conversation in a foreign language. You see, Veronica continued, stirring her coffee with languid grace, Nathan and I have what you might call a complicated arrangement. We're engaged, but we needed a distraction. Something to keep the press busy while we work out certain business details. That's impossible, Nathan said. Nathan says a lot of things. It's part of his charm. Veronica's eyes were predatory now. Did he tell you about our wedding? The one scheduled for next month. The cafe seemed to tilt sideways. Naomi gripped the back of a chair to keep from falling. You're lying. Am I? Veronica pulled out her phone, swiped to a photo. Nathan in a tuxedo, his arm around Veronica in a wedding dress. Both of them laughing, looking radiant. The timestamp showed last week. Engagement party rehearsal, Veronica explained casually. We're keeping it quiet until after the Sterling-Ashworth merger is finalized. Bad publicity could cost us billions. But we. Naomi's voice cracked. Oh, sweetie. Veronica's sympathy was poison dressed as kindness. You actually fell for it, didn't you? You thought the great Nathan Sterling had chosen you? A waitress with a child and debt she can't pay. Some say betrayal is unforgivable. Others say love can overcome anything. What do you think? Drop your answer below. Here's how this works, Veronica continued. You're going to disappear. Quietly. Cleanly. In exchange, I'll make sure that eviction notice on your kitchen counter gets paid. Your daughter's medical bills, too. Consider it severance pay for services rendered. What services? Naomi whispered. Being the perfect distraction. The wholesome single mother who made Nathan look sympathetic instead of calculating. The human interest story that kept people from asking too many questions about our business dealings. Veronica's smile was razor sharp. You played your part beautifully. Naomi felt something die inside her chest. The hope she'd been nursing. The fairy tale she'd started to believe in. If you don't disappear, Veronica added conversationally, I'll make sure the entire world knows about your shoplifting arrest when you were 18. Your mother's suicide. Every mistake, every weakness, every shameful moment you've tried to bury. Is your dignity worth your daughter's future? Naomi walked out of that cafe feeling like she was made of broken glass. Every step hurt. Every breath was a struggle. And somewhere in the city, Nathan Sterling was probably planning his wedding to the woman who'd just destroyed her life. Nathan found her sitting on a park bench 3 hours later, staring at nothing. Naomi, his voice was careful, concerned. You weren't at work. Dolores said you seemed upset. Are you engaged? The words came out flat, emotionless, like she'd used up all her feelings and had nothing left. Nathan went very still. What? It's a simple question. Are you engaged to Veronica Ashworth? Where is this coming from? Answer the question. Naomi finally looked at him, and Nathan took a step back from whatever he saw in her eyes. No, I am not engaged to Veronica. We ended things 2 years ago. She has photos of you in a tuxedo from last week. Nathan ran his hands through his hair, a gesture she'd learned meant he was buying time to think. There was a business dinner, a formal event for the company merger. She was there because her family is part of the deal, But that doesn't mean she knew about my eviction notice. Naomi's voice was deadly calm. She knew about Ava's medical bills. How would she know that unless you told her? The silence stretched between them like a chasm. It's not what you think, Nathan said finally. Then tell me what it is. The merger with Ashworth Industries is complicated. There are contracts, obligations that go back years. Veronica thinks that gives her certain claims on my personal life. Claims. She's delusional, Naomi. Obsessed. I've been trying to handle it quietly to avoid a scandal that could destroy both companies. By using me as a distraction? Nathan's face went white. No. God, no. What we have, what I feel for you, it's real. It's the most real thing in my life. But convenient too, right? The perfect cover story while you work out your business problems. That's not. Nathan reached for her, but Naomi stood up, backing away. She offered to pay my bills, Nathan. Like a severance package. Like I was an employee you were letting go. I'll handle Veronica. I'll make sure she never contacts you again. How? By marrying her like you're supposed to? I am not marrying her. The words exploded out of him, raw and desperate. I would rather lose every dollar I have than spend one day married to that woman. For a moment, Naomi almost believed him, almost let herself get pulled back into the warmth of his sincerity. But then she remembered Veronica's knowing smile, the casual cruelty in her voice, the way she talked about Naomi like she was a pawn in a game only the rich knew how to play. Maybe you're not marrying her, Naomi said quietly, but you're still choosing her world over mine. You're still choosing your billion-dollar merger over me. That's not true. Prove it. Naomi's voice broke on the words. Walk away from the merger. Cut all ties with her. Choose me publicly where everyone can see. Nathan's silence was answer enough. I thought so, Naomi whispered, and walked away before he could see her cry. The apartment felt like a tomb. Naomi sat at her kitchen table, staring at the eviction notice she'd pulled from the drawer. 3 days. She had 3 days to come up with rent money, or she and Ava would be on the street. The cruel irony wasn't lost on her. Veronica had offered to solve this exact problem in exchange for disappearing from Nathan's life. Blood money for a broken heart. Mama. Ava's voice was small from the doorway. Are you sad? Naomi quickly wiped her eyes and tried to smile. Just tired, baby. But Ava was 6, not stupid. She climbed onto Naomi's lap with a serious expression she wore when she was trying to solve grown-up problems. Is it because Nathan didn't come for breakfast yesterday? Or today? The innocent question felt like a knife between her ribs. For 3 weeks, Nathan had been part of their morning routine. Burnt toast and terrible coffee, and Ava's endless chatter filling the spaces where loneliness used to live. Now the silence felt deafening. Sometimes adults have disagreements, sweetheart. Like when you and Daddy had disagreements before he went away. The comparison hit too close to home. Naomi closed her eyes, fighting back tears that threatened to spill over. It's different, baby. Are we gonna have to move again? Ava's voice was matter-of-fact, but Naomi heard the fear underneath. They'd moved 4 times in the past 2 years, always one step ahead of bills they couldn't pay. I don't know yet. If we move, will Nathan be able to find us? The hope in her daughter's voice broke something inside Naomi's chest. Ava had started to trust Nathan, started to believe that maybe this time, the man in their lives wouldn't disappear when things got complicated. I don't think Nathan is going to be around anymore, sweetheart. Ava was quiet for a long moment, processing this information with the gravity of a child who'd learned too young that good things don't last. Did he change his mind about being our guardian angel? Naomi's throat closed up completely. How do you explain to a 6-year-old that guardian angels don't exist in the real world? That rich men don't rescue poor women? That fairy tales are just stories people tell to make life feel less hopeless? Sometimes people have to make hard choices, she managed finally. But he promised to help us. He said we were his family now. Had he said that? Naomi tried to remember, but the past few weeks felt like a fever dream now. All those moments of happiness tainted by the knowledge that Veronica had been watching, planning, pulling strings from the shadows. Her phone buzzed. A text from Nathan. Please let me explain. This isn't over. Naomi deleted it without responding. It was over. It had to be. Because the alternative, believing in him again, trusting him again, only to have it all ripped away when his real world came calling, would destroy her. And she couldn't let Ava watch her mother fall apart twice. Not for the same dream, dressed in different clothes. The knock on Naomi's door came at dusk, soft but persistent. She wasn't expecting anyone. Couldn't afford to order takeout. And after 5 days of dodging Nathan's calls, texts, and flower deliveries, she'd started to hope he'd finally gotten the message. Through the peephole, she saw Bernard Sterling standing in the hallway, back in his homeless disguise. But this time, the costume looked wrong. Like he was wearing a mask that no longer fit. What do you want? She called through the door. 5 minutes. Please. There are things you need to know. Against her better judgment, Naomi opened the door. Bernard looked older than when they'd first met, worry lines carved deep around his eyes. You shouldn't be here, she said. Neither should you. Bernard glanced around her small apartment. You should be somewhere safe. Somewhere Veronica can't reach you. I can take care of myself. Can you? Bernard's voice was grave. Do you know what happened to Nathan's last serious girlfriend? The one before Veronica. Naomi's stomach clenched. There was someone else? Rachel Morrison. Sweet girl. Elementary school teacher. She and Nathan dated for 8 months. Bernard's eyes were haunted. Then Veronica found out about her. What happened? Mysterious photos appeared online. Rachel in compromising positions that had been expertly doctored. Her principal fired her. Her reputation was destroyed. She moved to another state just to escape the shame. The blood drained from Naomi's face. Nathan let that happen. Nathan didn't know until it was too late. Veronica is resourceful and patient. She waits until her targets are vulnerable, then strikes where it hurts most. Why are you telling me this? Because Veronica called me yesterday. She's planning something for tonight. Something public. Something designed to humiliate you so completely that you'll disappear on your own. Naomi's hands started shaking. Tonight. The Sterling Foundation Charity Gala. Nathan's company sponsors it every year. Veronica will be there, playing the perfect hostess. And she's expecting you to show up. I'm not going to any gala. She's counting on that. Bernard's voice was urgent now. Don't you see? If you don't show, she wins. She gets to tell everyone that Nathan's mystery woman was just a gold digger who ran when things got complicated. Maybe I was. No. Bernard's voice was firm. You're the woman who spent her last $4 on a stranger's breakfast. You're the mother who works double shifts to keep her daughter fed. You're the only person who ever made my son smile like he remembered how to be human. Tears threatened to spill over. It doesn't matter. I can't compete with her world. You're not competing, Bernard said quietly. You're choosing whether to let her destroy you. The Sterling Foundation Charity Gala was everything Naomi had imagined and worse. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow light across marble floors. Women in gowns that cost more than cars glided between men in perfectly tailored tuxedos. The air was thick with expensive perfume and a quiet confidence that came from never worrying about money. Naomi had borrowed a black dress from Dolores, simple, elegant, but obviously not designer. She felt like an imposter walking through a world she'd never belonged to. She'd come because Bernard was right. Running would let Veronica win completely. But standing in this ballroom full of Detroit's elite, Naomi wondered if winning was even possible. Ladies and gentlemen, the voice cut through the cocktail chatter like a knife. If I could have your attention, please. Veronica Ashworth stood at the front of the room, radiant in a silver gown that caught the light like liquid mercury. Her smile was perfect, predatory, designed for maximum damage. As many of you know, the Sterling family has always been committed to charitable causes. Tonight, we're raising funds for Detroit's homeless population, people who've fallen through society's cracks. Polite applause rippled through the crowd. But before we begin the auction, I'd like to introduce someone special. Someone who embodies the very cause we're supporting tonight. Veronica's eyes found Naomi in the crowd, pinning her like a butterfly to a board. Please join me in welcoming Naomi Carter. The spotlight hit Naomi like a physical blow. Every head in the room turned toward her. She felt exposed, dissected, judged by hundreds of eyes that saw exactly what she was, an outsider in their perfect world. Ms. Carter has been getting to know the Sterling family recently, Veronica continued, her voice dripping false sweetness. She's a wonderful example of how charity can transform lives. A single mother, struggling to make ends meet, who found herself the beneficiary of Sterling generosity. The words landed like slaps. Charity case. Beneficiary. Every phrase carefully chosen to diminish, to humiliate. In fact, Veronica smiled wider. Nathan Sterling himself has taken such a personal interest in Ms. Carter's welfare that some people have mistaken his philanthropy for something more romantic. Knowing laughter rippled through the crowd. The kind of laughter that came at someone else's expense. But of course, we all understand the difference between charity and other relationships. Don't we, Naomi? The question hung in the air like a trap. Answer yes, and she'd be admitting she was nothing more than a charity case. Answer no, and she'd look delusional, grasping for something beyond her reach. Naomi felt every eye in the room watching her, waiting for her response, waiting for her to crumble under the weight of their judgment. The silence stretched until it became unbearable. Naomi's voice cracked. She tried again. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Oh, there certainly has, Veronica agreed, her victory complete. But don't worry. We're all very understanding here. After all, when someone offers to solve all your problems, it's only natural to misinterpret their motives. The crowd murmured agreement. Poor thing. How embarrassing. She actually thought. Naomi couldn't breathe. The room felt like it was closing in, all those perfect faces blurring together into a wall of pity and condescension. She ran through the marble lobby, past the uniformed doormen, into the cold night air where she could finally breathe again. Behind her, the party continued, probably already forgetting the entertainment Veronica had provided at her expense. Nathan found her sitting on the steps of the art museum 3 blocks away, still in her borrowed dress, tears streaming down her face. Naomi. His voice was raw, desperate. Go away. She didn't look up. Go back to your party. Your fiancé is probably wondering where you are. She's not my fiancé. Nathan sat down beside her, ignoring the December cold seeping through his tuxedo. And it's not my party anymore. What do you mean? I just stood up in front of 300 of Detroit's most influential people and told them exactly what I think of Veronica Ashworth. Naomi finally looked at him. His bow tie was undone, his hair disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it. What did you say? I told them that Veronica is a manipulative, cruel woman who gets her kicks from destroying innocent people. I told them that any business deal that requires me to associate with her can go to hell. Nathan's voice was steady, final. And I told them that you are the most extraordinary woman I've ever met. Nathan, you didn't. I told them that you spent your last $4 buying coffee for a stranger. That you work 2 jobs to support your daughter and never complains. That you have more integrity in your little finger than most people in that room have in their entire bodies. Naomi stared at him. You just destroyed your reputation. My reputation was built on lies anyway. Nathan turned to face her fully. The merger with Ashworth Industries? It's dead. The engagement that was never really over? It's over now. The careful image I've spent years building? Gone. You'll lose millions. I've already lost the only thing that matters. Nathan's eyes were desperate now. I lost you. You can't just. Watch me. Nathan pulled out his phone, scrolled to a contact, and hit call. Veronica? Yes, I know you're still at the gala. I'm calling to inform you that Sterling Enterprises is withdrawing from all deals with Ashworth Industries, effective immediately. He paused. Because I choose love over money. Because I choose Naomi Carter over you. Because some things are more important than business. He hung up and looked at Naomi. There. It's done. No merger. No engagement. No going back. Nathan. Naomi's voice was barely a whisper. I know I messed up. I know I should have chosen you from the beginning instead of trying to have it both ways. But I'm choosing you now. Publicly. Completely. If you'll let me. Snow began to fall around them, dusting the museum's steps with white. What about your company? Your fortune? What about them? Money didn't make me happy. Success didn't make me complete. Nathan reached for her hand. You did. You and Ava. You made me remember what it feels like to be human. For the first time in days, Naomi let herself hope. The press will have a field day with this. Let them. I'd rather be poor and happy than rich and miserable. You say that now. I'll say it every day for the rest of my life if you'll let me. The call came at 3:17 p.m., 20 minutes after Naomi should have picked up Ava from school. Ms. Carter, this is Principal Watson at Lincoln Elementary. The woman's voice was tight with barely controlled panic. We need you to come to the school immediately. Naomi's blood turned to ice. She was already running toward her car, phone pressed against her ear. What happened? Is Ava hurt? She's not here. Someone came to pick her up about an hour ago. They had proper identification, said there was a family emergency. Who? Naomi's voice cracked like a whip. Who took my daughter? A woman. Well-dressed, very official. She had a note with your signature authorizing a pickup, and she knew details about Ava that we thought it was legitimate. Naomi's hands shook so violently she could barely get her keys in the ignition. I never signed any note. I never authorized anyone to pick up my daughter. The silence on the other end told her everything she needed to know. Lincoln Elementary had just handed her 6-year-old over to a stranger. We're calling the police. Don't. The word came out sharper than she intended. Not yet. I need to make some calls first. Naomi hung up and immediately dialed Nathan. He answered on the first ring. Naomi? I was hoping you'd. Someone took Ava. The words came out like broken glass. What? Someone picked her up from school with a forged note. A woman. Well-dressed. Official. Naomi's voice was climbing toward hysteria. This is about you. About us. About whatever game Veronica is still playing. Where are you? Driving to the school to see if they have security footage. No. Come to my office. I have resources the school doesn't. Private security, connections with law enforcement. We'll find her. Nathan, if she's hurt. She won't be. Nathan's voice was steel wrapped in silk. Ava is safe. This is intimidation, not violence. Veronica wants to scare you, not harm a child. But Naomi wasn't sure Nathan really knew what Veronica was capable of. The Sterling Enterprises building had never felt more like enemy territory. Every second in the elevator was agony. Every floor that passed another moment her baby was in the hands of strangers. Nathan was waiting when the doors opened, surrounded by men in expensive suits who radiated professional competence. Security specialists. The kind of people who found missing children for a living. We've already accessed the school's security system, Nathan said without preamble. The woman who took Ava matches the description of Marlene Foster, one of Veronica's personal assistants. So you know where she is? Foster's phone is off, but we're tracking her car. GPS shows it heading north toward the Ashworth family estate. Naomi felt her knees give out. The Ashworth estate was 30 miles outside the city, surrounded by private security and enough money to make problems disappear permanently. Why would she take Ava there? Nathan's jaw was tight. Because it's the one place in Michigan where Veronica has complete control, where she can orchestrate whatever sick game she's planning without interference. One of the security specialists looked up from his laptop. Sir, we've got eyes on the vehicle. Stopped at the Ashworth gates 15 minutes ago. What's the plan? Naomi demanded. We go in quiet, Nathan said. No police, no media attention. Just enough security to ensure everyone's safety. And if it's a trap? Nathan met her eyes. Then I'll trade myself for Ava. Whatever Veronica wants, I'll give her. The drive to the Ashworth estate passed in a blur of panic and desperate prayers. Naomi couldn't stop imagining all the ways this could go wrong. All the ways her daughter could pay the price for her mother's poor judgment in trusting the wrong people. The estate gates were open when they arrived, as if they'd been expected. The long driveway curved through manicured gardens toward a mansion that looked like something from a movie, all columns and marble and old money arrogance. Veronica was waiting on the front steps, perfectly composed in a cream-colored suit. Beside her stood a nervous-looking woman in her 50s who had to be Marlene Foster. And between them, holding Marlene's hand like she was on a field trip, was Ava. Relief hit Naomi like a physical blow. Her daughter was safe, unharmed, even smiling as she pointed at something in the elaborate fountain. She's fine, Nathan said quietly, reading the tension in Naomi's shoulders. But as they got out of the car, Naomi realized this wasn't a rescue. This was the opening move in whatever final game Veronica had planned. Welcome to my home, Veronica called out, her voice carrying across the distance between them. I do hope you don't mind that I borrowed your daughter for the afternoon. She's been such delightful company. Ava spotted them and waved enthusiastically. Mama, Nathan, look at this big house. It has 17 bathrooms. The casual way Veronica had used Ava, a 6-year-old child, as a pawn in her twisted game made something violent and protective surge in Naomi's chest. This ended today, one way or another. Let her go. Naomi's voice carried across the marble steps with deadly calm. Whatever this is about, it's between adults. Leave my daughter out of it. Veronica's smile was sharp as broken glass. Oh, but that's where you're wrong. This is absolutely about your daughter, about the future she'll have depending on the choices you make right now. Mama. Ava broke free from Marlene's grip and ran toward them, completely oblivious to the tension crackling in the air. This lady said you were coming to visit. Can we swim in their pool? It has a water slide. Naomi caught her daughter in a fierce hug, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair, reassuring herself that Ava was really, truly safe. Over her daughter's head, she met Veronica's calculating gaze. What do you want? A conversation. adult to adult, about realistic expectations and practical solutions. Veronica gestured toward the mansion behind her. Shall we go inside? I've had refreshments prepared. We're not going anywhere with you. Actually, you are. Veronica's voice was silk wrapped around steel. Because I have information you need. About the custody petition that was filed this morning. Naomi's blood turned to ice. What custody petition? The one claiming you're an unfit mother. Drug use, financial instability, exposing your child to dangerous situations. Veronica's smile widened. All very well documented, I'm afraid. Photos, witness statements, a rather compelling case for immediate removal of the child from your care. That's impossible. It's all lies. Truth is subjective in family court, darling. Especially when one side has unlimited resources and the other has a public defender who's handling 40 cases simultaneously. Nathan stepped forward, his voice dangerous. You filed a false custody petition. Nothing false about it. Naomi has been photographed in the company of known criminals. When? Naomi demanded. Why? Just last week when you had lunch with Bernard Sterling. Did you know he has multiple arrests for vagrancy? Quite concerning for a mother to associate with such people. The trap was elegant and brutal. Bernard's homeless act, meant to test Naomi's character, was now being used as evidence of her poor judgment. The hearing is Monday, Veronica continued conversationally. 3 days from now. Barely enough time to mount a defense, really. Unless, of course, the petition is withdrawn. What's the price? Nathan asked, though his face said he already knew. Simple. Naomi disappears. Quietly, permanently. Changes her name, moves to another state, never contacts Nathan again. In exchange, the custody case goes away and she keeps her daughter. And if I don't agree? Then Ava goes into foster care while the courts sort out whether her mother is fit to raise her. Could take months, years even. Foster care is so traumatic for young children. She has one chance to decide, and the wrong move could destroy everything. If you'd never want to miss endings like this, subscribe before the truth is revealed. Naomi felt the world tilt sideways. This was her worst nightmare made real. Losing Ava not to accident or illness, but to the cold calculation of someone who saw children as leverage. You're sick, Nathan said, his voice barely controlled. I'm practical. Naomi will never fit into your world, Nathan. This little experiment has proven that. But rather than let her drag you down with her, I'm offering her a way out with her dignity intact. My dignity? Naomi's voice was rising. You want me to abandon the man I love and hide from the world like a criminal. And you're calling that dignity? I'm calling it realistic. You're a waitress from Detroit. Nathan is worth $3 billion. Do you honestly think that fairy tale was going to have a happy ending? The question hit like a physical blow because part of Naomi, the scared, insecure part that had never believed she deserved happiness, had been asking the same thing. Look around you. Veronica gestured at the mansion, the grounds, the obvious wealth. This is Nathan's real world. Garden parties and board meetings and decisions that affect thousands of jobs. When the novelty of your authenticity wears off, what then? That's enough. Nathan's voice cut through Veronica's poison like a blade. Is it? Because I don't think Naomi has really considered the long-term implications of this relationship. The scrutiny, the judgment, the constant feeling of being inadequate. Stop. Naomi's word came out like a gunshot. Everyone turned to look at her. She stood straighter, lifted her chin, and for the first time since this nightmare began, she felt completely clear about what she needed to do. You want me to choose, she said to Veronica. Run away and keep Ava safe, or stay and risk losing her to your legal games. Precisely. But you've made one mistake. Naomi's voice was steady now, filled with quiet strength. You assumed I'd choose based on fear. Veronica's smile faltered slightly. I spent 3 years being afraid. Afraid I wasn't good enough for Ava's father. Afraid I couldn't provide for her alone. Afraid that every good thing was temporary. Naomi looked at Nathan, then back at Veronica. But my daughter taught me something. She told me Nathan was our guardian angel. And guardian angels don't abandon the people they're meant to protect. Naomi, Nathan started, but she held up her hand. I choose to trust. The words rang with absolute certainty. I choose to believe that love is stronger than money, that truth is stronger than lies, and that Nathan Sterling is exactly the man he's shown himself to be. She turned to Nathan, her eyes blazing with fierce determination. Fight for us. Fight for Ava. Fight for whatever this is between us. Because I'm done running from people who think money makes them better than everyone else. Nathan's face transformed. Relief and love and something that looked like wonder spreading across his features. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Veronica's composure finally cracked. You're making a mistake. A huge, life-destroying mistake. No, Nathan said, pulling out his phone. You are. He dialed the number, waited for an answer. Detective Morrison? Nathan Sterling. I need to report attempted kidnapping and extortion involving a minor. Yes, I'll wait for you here. He hung up and looked at Veronica with satisfaction. Amazing what happens when you actually call the police instead of trying to handle everything privately. As sirens began wailing in the distance, Naomi realized something profound had shifted inside her chest. For the first time in her adult life, she wasn't facing the future alone. 6 months later, Naomi stood in the kitchen of Nathan's penthouse, making breakfast, while Ava built elaborate cities out of blocks on the living room floor. The custody case had been dismissed within a week. Veronica's petition fell apart the moment investigators discovered the forged documents and false statements. The attempted kidnapping charges had resulted in criminal prosecution that was still winding through the courts. The merger with Ashworth Industries was permanently dead, costing Nathan an estimated $200 million. He'd never mentioned it once. Mama, can I have chocolate chips in my pancakes? Regular pancakes today, sweetheart. But Nathan always puts chocolate chips in them. Naomi smiled. Nathan had spoiled Ava rotten over the past months, and Ava had bloomed under the attention. She called him her almost daddy now, which made Nathan's eyes go soft every single time. Nathan's at a business meeting this morning, remember? The penthouse had become their temporary home, while Nathan had a house built in the suburbs, something with a yard for Ava and neighbors who weren't billionaires. He was trying, genuinely trying, to bridge their two worlds. But sometimes Naomi wondered if the gap was too wide to cross permanently. Knock, knock. Nathan's voice called from the entryway. We're in the kitchen. Ava shrieked, abandoning her blocks to run toward him. Nathan appeared in the doorway with Ava wrapped around his legs like a koala bear, his smile so bright it could power the city. How did the meeting go? Naomi asked. Interesting. Very interesting. Nathan's eyes held secrets, the kind that made her stomach flutter with nervous anticipation. Actually, I have something to ask you. Both of you. He set Ava down gently and reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out a small velvet box that made Naomi's heart stop beating. Nathan, before you say anything, he said quickly, I know this is complicated. I know we've been through hell to get here. I know you have every reason to be cautious about trusting me completely. What are you saying? Nathan dropped to one knee, right there in the kitchen between the stove and the breakfast table, and opened the box to reveal a ring that was beautiful but not ostentatious. Perfect but not intimidating. I'm saying I love you. Both of you. I'm saying I want to spend the rest of my life proving that fairy tales can happen to girls like you. His voice was shaking slightly. Naomi Carter, will you marry me? Ava clapped her hands in delight. Say yes, Mama. Say yes, so Nathan can be my real daddy. Naomi looked at the man kneeling in front of her, offering her everything she'd ever dreamed of but never believed she deserved. The man who'd chosen her over billions of dollars. The man who'd fought for her daughter like she was his own. But in the back of her mind, a small voice whispered warnings. What about the next crisis? The next Veronica? What happened when the novelty wore off and Nathan remembered he could have anyone? Naomi. Nathan's voice was uncertain now. What are you thinking? She looked into his eyes, searching for the truth that would determine their future. What she saw there surprised her. Not certainty. Not arrogant confidence. Hope. Vulnerable, desperate hope that matched her own. I'm thinking, she said slowly, that some questions deserve better answers than yes or no. The ring box trembled in Nathan's hand as he waited for her to finish. Ask me again in a year.